Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, What is Meant by Surrender? Well, first of all, I want you to point out that these videos are not about the character, but about remembering that what we are is the ever-present, always beingness which words cannot describe. Call it love, call it essence, call it absolute, call it oneness, but in the end, words cannot be used to describe the undescribable. Now, within the world of appearances, where we appear to be, when it seems as though I'm a body, I experience myself separate from everybody else. It seems as though I have to be responsible, I have to provide to fulfill my needs, and so on. So, within this world of experience, there's a way of living which is the surrender which I'm pointing to. And it's not a conceptual surrender. It's not that I as a person simply say I surrender to what is or whatever the case may be. No. The surrender I'm pointing here is the evidence, is the proof that you know at a much deeper level that life is taking care of life. When the identification with the character subsides to such extent that I still behave like the character, but there's a sense of tranquility, there's a peace underneath, because I know, not because I've learned about it or read about it, but I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that life is in charge and not me. And we're going to be talking about a little bit more, but first, I would like to read an excerpt from one of my books, What Happens When You Let God, Rewritten. And by the way, the word God and go, you see, what happens when you let go, it just so happens that the word also allowed me to go, what happens when you let God. Anyhow, this is a book I wrote, or life through this instrument wrote, based on the teachings of the Course in Miracles, my understanding of that. But anyhow, I'm going to share with you something that I did write that did happen to me, so you can see where this video is pointing to. I wrote, in 1995, I wrote the following: my purpose in life is to bring joy, happiness, and encouragement to every person whom I come into contact with, to devote my entire life to the development and growth of my spiritual, mental, and physical capacities so that I can serve as an example to others, to help everyone see the greatness that resides within them that will allow them to live their dreams so they can share the fruits of their endeavors with their loved ones as well as humanity. Then I continue. Little did I know that the line, so that I can serve as an example to others, would turn out to be completely different from what I had expected. 13 years later, after being homeless and broke numerous times, having filed for bankruptcy, being diagnosed with a thyroid tumor, and no longer having a fulfilling career, on Sunday, February 17th of 2008, I was asked to leave the place where I was staying. With maybe $20 to my name and enough gas to go to church, I met with the Course in Miracles study group in that afternoon. As a result of my practicing of the teachings of the Course, in the midst of my challenging experience, I was feeling very joyful, happy, and peaceful. From that space, this is what I said after hearing one other student's personal concern. And I said, right now I am broke. I don't know what I'm going to eat. Don't even know where I'm going to rest my head tonight. However, I can guarantee that there is a millionaire somewhere in this world who has everything he has ever wanted, yet he's probably drowning himself in either alcohol, drugs, or sex, maybe dealing with depression, or maybe one step away from committing suicide. who would give everything he has in exchange for the peace that I have. At the end of the meeting, without asking for anything, one of the students handed me some money, and another one told me that she had an extra room in her house that I could use for a few days while I was getting myself back on my feet. And the story began. Why am I sharing this? Because when we find ourselves believing that this is who we are, that this is our sense of identity, fear have a field day, has plenty to do with us. I wasn't trying to challenge the universe in any way, shape, or form with that statement. What I'm pointing to is that somehow there was a sense of tranquility because I was not identified with the mind, you see. This is not about, again, challenging the universe. Okay, so I trust that life will take care of my bills. Life is going to take care of everything, meaning that I don't have to go to work. I'm just going to sit here because I trust that the universe will provide. That's not what I'm talking about, because if you come from that mental attitude, it's very likely that you will end up on the streets, if that's were to happen, This is not what we're pointing to, okay? What we're pointing to is that, first of all, when there's the recognition that I am, that life is what I am, you see, simultaneously there's an awareness, there's a trust that life takes care of life, and consequently, whatever I'm supposed to live, whatever is supposed to happen in my script, it's welcome with an open heart, is accepted, because I'm not allowing the mind determine what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, why should I do, why shouldn't I do. I am simply being present. But being present because there's a true desire for peace in the mind. Because again, it doesn't matter what the scenario may appear to be, peace of mind has nothing to do with the scenario. It has to do with whether I am identifying with the concept, the mind stuff, with the thinking, or if I'm being present. You see? Now, if you look at your life, at least I can only speak from experience, notice how many times, and I'm pretty sure that it happened all the time, it just happens that's been overlooked, how many times you were in a position where there seems to be no way out. Okay, literally no way out, and then somehow either somebody showed up and kind of help you with something, or I don't know, somehow something happened. You may receive the inspiration to make a particular move that helps you deal with that situation, or the situation arrange itself, it doesn't matter. Somehow it seems as if though something happens that we call it a miracle, or a coincidence, or a synchronicity. And when that happens, that seems to help us in whatever situation we find ourselves in, the mind eventually discards it, and it goes, oh, thank you, my life is being fixed, or something happened that helped me. And then we get so caught up into that we don't see it as the natural expression of life. And then we feel the high of that moment, but then, because we have never identified who I really am, then the fear that is underneath remains. And then when that problem seems to be solved, guess what? Now we're ready, or we are afraid of the possibility of the next one. You see? Because we don't trust that we are and that life is handling it all, we think that we're in control of it. When we think we can control it, we think that we are at the top, at the high of the mountain. When we cannot control it, we panic, and then life shows you that life is taking care of life itself. And in that moment, what we do is that instead of surrendering, realizing, oh my God, look how life is unfolding on its, by itself, we take that as a, oh, thank you, God, I appreciate it. And then we go back again to try to control life because the lesson hasn't been learned. Therefore, we're still living in the same state of fear because we don't realize that we haven't done anything Life is doing everything through us. Remember, watch the second video of this series, Do We Have Free Will? Because that I go in detail as to why we're not the doer. Now, this reminds me of an old joke I've heard many years ago, which is about an attorney who had a very important court case, and if he misses that court case, his career would be shattered. So he goes to the courthouse, but there is no parking space, and he's panicking because, oh my God, if I cannot find where to park this car and I cannot go to the courtroom, then my career is going to be over. It's going to be doomed. So he was sweating. He doesn't know what to do. So for the first time, he began to pray. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God or anything. But for somehow, he started praying. He says, God, please help me. Please help me find a parking space. If you help me find a parking space, I promise that I will go to church every Sunday. I will pray it every single day. And interestingly enough, a parking space would not appear. It's got like saying that, no, that's too much. That's too easy. I don't think that's not enough for you to earn a parking spot. Then the man, very desperate, looking at his watch, says, God, I promise that if you find me a parking space, I will stop sleeping with my secretary, who is a married woman. Now, you could say that is a sacrifice that may deserve a parking space, because, man, she's a very beautiful woman. So you can imagine the whole scenario. Well, in that moment, a parking space, a car is pulling out of a parking space. So instead of the attorney saying, thank you, God, because I found a parking space and I'll commit to whatever I said I was going to do, the attorney goes and, God, don't worry about it anymore. I already found a parking space. You see? Because in reality, he's not interested in really surrender his life to truth or to God. He just try to find a way. He's trying to get that parking space to continue behaving the way he have always has. Well, what we do is that if we don't desire truth like anything else, more than anything else, then yeah, we're going to pretend that thank you, God, for this little miracle, but the fear will remain, because we're preparing the ground for the next problem, the next fear. What we're pointing with these videos is to a liberation that transcends all that fear, but this is not for the character. This is not for you. This is when the recognition of the I am that I am is established. There is a trust, you see? And that trust is the surrender that we're pointing here. I am not surrendering so my life can change. I am surrendering because I know what I am, and a consequence, there's a peace in which I rest, because now life is seen more like a movie that is happening rather than something that seems to be happening to me. You see? Because there is no me. So this is the surrender we're pointing here. We're not trying to put life to the test. I think it's in the Bible that says, do not put Lord to the test, or something like that. It's another way of saying, I'm not trying to test life to show me anything. What you saw that I wrote and when I say I wrote, that is meant that through this character, that's how it unfolded anyway. When I wrote that in that book, I was basically coming from a place of total joy and happiness and peace. There was a freedom because I was not hanging on to anything. I was not attaching myself to anything. Now, you may say, or you may argue, and it's very understandable, so I'm going to address that. Yeah, Nick, that may be easy for you if you don't have a family or children or people to provide or something like that. I am aware of that. However, what I'm pointing to here is not that you can simply be and you don't care about the family or the children or something. No, what I'm pointing to here is that life is unfolding the way it's unfolding anyway. You see? You're not going to be more responsible or less responsible because you're letting fearful thoughts says you have to do this. Life is unfolding the way it's unfolding, in spite whether you have children or don't have children. You see? We're not here to try to use different scenarios to try to state our case, but in this situation or in that situation. This is not what these videos are pointing to. This is an invitation to rest in a space that you have available right this moment, the only moment that there is anyway. It's not even a moment, it's eternity. But we're pointing to that which is, that the only thing that is overshadowing it is the conceptual mind, the thoughts that appear, that you believe, that you attach themselves to. Once the recognition of what you are is established, you will continue doing whatever you are doing with your family, whether it's you're still going to work, you still bring in the bread, so to speak, whoever is doing it, whether it's the mother or the father or both, it doesn't matter. You still live your normal life, but there's a sense of tranquility underneath, because even though it seems as though you are the one taking responsibility, simultaneously there's an awareness that this is what's happened through you. Do you see what I'm pointing to? So non-duality, or pointing to the truth of who I am, doesn't absorb you from responsibilities or somehow takes away the things that are happening in your life, or force you to live in a cave or something like that. This is not what we're pointing to here. This is a way of being which is available to us right this moment if we stop identified with the content of the mind. See? So as you rest in this surrender, then you begin to see, there's so much proof of the fact that life is in charge. Like I said before, we just don't realize that. Sit down and write down all the seeming coincidences that happen in your life, and you will realize, yes, something has to be in charge of this. And then you can look at nature. Look at nature and see how nature unfolds on its own. See? Notice it. Just notice, oh my God, look how everything happens on its own, and here I am arrogantly thinking that I am making things happen. Because we bought the concept that says, yeah, but you have a brain that allows you to make decisions. But we already covered that up in the second video of this series, which again, I suggest you watch it if you haven't watched these videos before. Okay? And then you rest. See, the invitations in these videos are not esoteric, are very practical. Let's put it to the test right now, so you can see that I am not here joking or trying to make stuff up. Right now, in spite of whatever challenges you may be facing, something very difficult, or fear, or what's going to happen in a day or tomorrow, or maybe I don't know if I'm going to pay the rent at the end of the month, or I don't know if I'm going to get a job, or I need a job, or it doesn't matter what the case may be. I'm not trying to deny or undermine your situation, or discarding it as no. I'm aware that you may be going through something that could be very difficult or challenging. I'm aware of that. I'm just inviting you to notice a possibility. That's all. You don't have to follow anything I'm saying here, but this is an invitation, and the invitation is right now, right this moment. Take a deep breath and don't identify it with whatever the mind is trying to sell you, whatever the mind is trying to tell you. This is not a denial, this is not a suppression, this is not any of that, because then you still identify with the character that with fear is trying to use these words to somehow cover up what he doesn't want to see. No, actually these videos are not even about covering anything up, it's about looking. But anyhow, let's go to what we're talking here. Right now, in spite of whatever you may be going through, right this moment, which is all that there is, I want you to don't identify with your thoughts. Again, they will be there, and that's fine. That's what they do. That's their job. Don't identify with them, and what is left. Now, once again, I've said this before, and I will say it again. If you answer that question, you're still identified with the thoughts. You see? I'm just pointing to the obviousness of what is the isness of experience itself, which is not a personal experience, but I don't know what other words to use. Right now, what is left? What is, you see? If you don't identify with any thoughts, just for a moment, if you don't identify with any thoughts, you notice that what is. That's what we're pointing to in these videos, within the seeming human experience. You see? Now that space is what you are always, within the illusory experience, of course. What you really are is beyond words, beyond concepts, anything, but that space is always, you see? That is what is referred to as the potential or field of energy, potential energy, whatever you want to call it. You see, the unmanifest, it doesn't matter, but that is what is. That's the life force. That's the energy that you are always. See, that never changes. That never changes, no matter what seems to be happening in the surface. The ocean will never stop being the ocean just because sometimes have waves and sometimes it doesn't. Waves are not something separate from the ocean. They are the ocean until you call them waves. Well, right now you are the ever-present energy, the field of all potentiality, until you label it something. In this case, a body, a person, an individual. So once again, resting in what is. Don't identify with any thoughts, with anything. Just don't believe in any of them. Just beingness right now. What is left? You see? And that is what we're pointing to. Now, if you still think in terms of I am an individual who's at peace, you're missing the mark, because the individual itself is a thought. That's a distraction. This is the fear that doesn't allow you to go there, because you think you're going to lose your sense of identity. Well, that will be lost, but the mind sells it to you that, oh, that means that I'm going to disappear. I'm going to die. I'm going to disappear from the world. My family will disappear. This is junk stuff. This is nothing. You are not even here, but it appears as if though you're here. So I'm playing within the seeming game, so you see that you can live in this game with a mentality that is not of it. Okay? So let's go again. Right now, in spite of whatever seems to be happening in your life, meaning in spite of whatever stories the mind is conjuring up, even if they seems to be real to you, it doesn't matter. It's still a story, because what you are right now is the isness, is what is. Right now you can never not be, and this is what we're pointing to here. Right now, if you don't identify with the content of the mind, what is left? What is left? You see? Don't answer. This is not an answer. It's experience. It's direct, undeniable experience. You see? Now, in experience itself, in the experience itself, are there any problems? The answer is no. Only when you go back to the mind, well, my problem is, hold it, let's go back to experience. You see? That's the piece that passes all understanding, where these videos are pointing to. That's all. That's it. Now, from that space, observe that life is, and life takes care of life. What that implies is that you're still living your life as it appears to be on a surface, but with a mentality that is grounded in that which is permanent. And from that space of clarity, of tranquility, you can call it joy if you want to. Notice how inspiration comes. That will be what leads you to make the right move, if a move needs to be made. That is more, let's say, appropriate to your situation. And sometimes what life is telling you is, don't make a move. You see? And this is what the mind cannot understand. What do you mean, don't make a move? Sit over here? No, just be. When I read the story to you, when I was asked to leave the place where I was staying, which I didn't know where I was going to go, all I know is that I had enough gas to go to the church and you know, and be there. I was just open. If I would let the mind get in the way, God knows what I would have been trying to do, but I was just open. So, okay, this is what's happening. This is all there is. And then one thing led to the other. I find myself in the church, in the group, you know, and we were talking, and all of a sudden somebody tells a story, and I'm just there, and I see how through me the inspiration to say the words that I said. And then from that point, then this lady allowed me to stay in her place for about a week or so, week and a half. Somebody gave me some money so that I can, eat or whatever. And from that point forward, events continue to unfold. I never find myself underneath a bridge or anything like that. I had everything I ever needed. And one thing led to the other one, and everything unfolded, and life is unfolding. You see? And that's what we're pointing to. And if I can tell you all the synchronicities and all the things that did happen which have happened through my life, I mean, I can write a book about synchronicities if I wanted it to. And we all could. But we don't even notice it because we're too busy trying to do instead of being. You see? Until life crashes, until you crash and you cannot fight anymore, and you have no choice but to surrender. There's an organization called Alcoholics Anonymous, and the first 3 steps are brilliant. I don't remember exactly the order, but they have to do with, I cannot deal with this addiction, so I have to surrender to a power greater than me. In those steps is let go. There's no instructions of surrender to God, so now you do this. No, literally it's just surrender because you cannot deal with that. But there's something that can. And that something, it's you. But not you as a person. You as a person is what led to trying to find an escape. But you as consciousness don't need to escape from anything because you simply are. These videos are not to fix the person. I am not talking about any of that. These videos are pointing to what you are right now. And that's what the invitation right now, in spite of whatever you think is happening in your life or who you think you are, if you don't identify with the content of the mind that is analyzing, interpreting, dissecting, dividing, if you don't identify with the concept of the mind, with the thoughts, if you don't identify with them, what is left? You see? And what is left is not theory. It's not a mental construct. I was going to say a menstrual construct. It's just is. See, that's the isness we're pointing to here. This is not theoretical. And you don't have to do anything to get to it. This is available right here, right now, always, and will always be. The question is that what you really want? See, the mind doesn't want that because it'll be its demise. The mind wants you to do, and it sells you things that if you do, you'll make you happy. Hey, if you drink, you're going to feel better. If you take these drugs, you're going to feel better. If you get this job, you're going to feel better, be happy. If you have the relationship, you're going to be happy. If you have more money, you see, it's always selling you something to do, and the invitation in these videos is not to do, but to be. To be because you already are. You cannot not be. Try not to be right now. You see? Try not to be. You cannot. You're always being. The problem is that you identify with the thought that says, I am being something or someone. And non-duality is pointing to the fact that we are. You see? When that awareness becomes so obvious, then you realize that you live in a state of surrender, which I rather use another word. You live in a state of trust. When you trust, you're happy, you're tranquil, life is unfolding. That is meant by living a surrendered life. Once again, the surrender is not the character saying, okay, I surrender, I cannot do this anymore. It's not apathy, it's not resignation. No, it's joy. Could you imagine the weight you're taking off your shoulder right now by literally surrender in a true sense of the word? True sense of the word. This is experience, this is not theory. What would happen if you let go of everything right now? What would happen? And the direct experience is just, whew, you take a weight off your shoulder. But then the mind goes, yeah, but you have to do this. You have to hold on to this. What if you lose this or whatever? You're not going to lose whatever is not meant to be lost, but you will be stripped away from whatever is not meant to be a part of your life. And that's happening. It's going to happen anyway. You cannot hold on to the body forever. You cannot hold on to your loved ones forever. You cannot hold on to anything in this world forever, because everything in this world is transitory. But what you are is not. You don't have to even hold on to yourself. You are the self. You just need to let go of everything you think you're trying to hold on to. And what you're trying to hold on to is simply the mind conjuring up stories to tell you the reason why you should hold on to anything. The way I look at it is that when I'm afraid of losing something, in my mind, immediately I take that something and I put it and I give it to the Creator. Or, you know, Creator and you are the same thing, remember, because there's only one. It's just language, right? I offer it to the universe because nothing is mine. This body is not mine. Nothing is mine. Not even the thoughts are mine. The feelings, nothing is mine. And yet it appears that there are things that I own, but in reality I know that I don't own anything. Everything is surrendered to the creation. And whatever the creation wants me to have, I will have. Whatever it doesn't want me to have, I will not have. As simple as that. But if you live from that space, from that surrender or that trusting space, then that's how you live happily, you see. You live at peace. Yes, there'll be challenges, there'll be ups and downs, there'll be pain and pleasure, but there's a way of living those experiences with a mentality that is not of the world, and that is the peace that passes all understanding. That's what we're pointing to all the time, which has nothing to do with the character. You have to do with the recognition of the fact that I am. And remember, I don't recognize that I am. It's just a way of what words can I use, you know? Right now, once again, don't identify with any of the thoughts, don't believe in any of them, and what is left is I am. You see? That's invitation. And now, as the resting in I am becomes priority, notice by direct experience how life inspires you to take actions when it's necessary, and when it's not necessary and the mind try to sell you, you have to do this because you have to get this or whatever, you go, I don't know. My priority is the love that is within, the peace that is within, nothing else. Take everything away. It doesn't matter. Even my body, take it away. You see, when you see the thread and you can look at the thread and go, take it away, then the fear-based mind, call it ego or whatever, have nothing to threaten you with. And then you begin to see how life takes care of life, and that is what developed the trust in life. And that's why the surrender, you see what I mean by surrender, is by living in this trust. You see? That's what is meant by surrender. It's another way of saying just trusting. And you rest in that. And you live in peace. You see? Because you are that peace. Okay, well, this is inspiration that came through this instrument. I hope it helped, and as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.